Okay, so welcome back to lesson number 3, the Fibonacci numbers in nature, and this is part 2. Okay, so Fibonacci phyllotaxis. We talked about this in the previous lesson, and here we'll talk about world, multi-jugget, Fibonacci numbers, and the golden angle. So the definition for world, and we're talking about vegetation here. So this is when leaves radiate from a single point, surround or wrap around a stem. Multi-jugget this means 2 or more leaf primordia grow at the same node and spread evenly around a stem. Number of visible spirals or peristiches is another word for plant spirals. In spiral arrangements, most often are Fibonacci numbers, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, etc. So usually the numbers can go all the way, not too far up into the sequence, but it can go up to into the hundreds. Okay, so the angle between successive leaves is close to the golden angle, which is about 137.5 degrees. Here we have the whorled leaves of a wild or bitter almond. Over here we have the whirling leaves of the Michigan lily. And then here below is a succulent plant here with sharp spines. Okay, Fibonacci phyllotaxis, repeating spirals and their leaf angles, represented by a fraction describing leaf windings angle per leaf. Alternate distichs is a half of a full rotation. Beech and hazel can be a third of a rotation. Oak and apricot, 2/5. Sunflowers, poplar, pear can have 3/8 of a full rotation. Willow and almond can have 5/13, and of course the numerator and denominator of these numbers are usually consisting of Fibonacci numbers and its second successor. Here you can see a willow oak leaves, and this is a copper beech tree showing its beautiful leaves. All right, so phyllotaxis in art and architecture. So phyllotaxis has been used as an inspiration for many sculptures and architectural design. So again, phyllotaxis relates to plant life and the mathematics related to how leaves are arranged on a stem. So people have studied leaf arrangements for ages and then applied what they see in nature to their artwork and architectural designs. Now, Akio Hazoum has built and exhibited several bamboo towers based on Fibonacci numbers which exhibit phyllotaxis. Spiral apartment building proposed by Sela Masumi, design where spirally designed apartment balconies project around a central axis. Each balcony wouldn't shade the balcony of the apartment directly beneath it, just like how leaves are arranged in a spiral fashion so that the sunlight can hit evenly all the leaves without the leaves shadowing each other. Here you can see a spiral staircase from the Wiseman house. Okay, here's a fun, colorful slide for you today. So let's talk about Fibonacci numbers in plants, this time with a focus on flowers. So numbers of flower parts, mostly petals, is what we're focusing on here. So irises, lilies, and trilliums can have 3 petals or flower parts in 3s. 5 petals would be for buttercup, columbine, aquilegia, larkspur, pinks, and wild rose. Cultivated buttercups bred into multi-petal forms. 8 for delphiniums, some daisy cultivars, 13 petals for the corn, marigold, cineraria, daisies, and some ragworts. All right, here we have a fuchsia daisy. Here's a buttercup, a 13-petaled ragwort, and we have the flower parts in 3s here for a painted trillium. Really gorgeous. Okay, Fibonacci flowers having 21 to 89 petals. So 21 petals can be found on asters, black-eyed Susans, and chicory. 34 petals for plantain and pyrethrum. 55, 89 Asteraceae family, Michaelmas, daisies, roses. Some species are precise about the number of petals, such as wild buttercups. Others can have varying petal numbers, with the average petal numbers all being Fibonacci numbers. Not always, but a surprising amount of time they are Fibonacci numbers. Okay, so we can count the petals on this black-eyed Susan. I know part of the petals are wilted, but how many petals does it have? So starting here, 1. All right, so the number is, and the answer's on the next slide. Well, it should have been. Oh no, here it is. I can't see it because I have something covering up. 13. All right, Fibonacci numbers in sneezewort plants. So new branches usually grow out at the axil, space between a leaf or branch and a stem which it's attached. So a horizontal line through each axil shows growth stages, such as this image on the right. The main stem produces new branches at the beginning of each growth stage. All right, so notice here we have one leaf, or one branch, and then 2 branches, 1, 2, 3 branches, 5 branches, 8, 13, all of them Fibonacci numbers. All right, Fibonacci and the sneezewort plant. So here you can see what a sneezewort plant looks like in the wild. So new branches rest for 2 stages of growth, then begin producing new shoots at the beginning of each stage growth. New growth shoot numbers at any given stage will be a Fibonacci number. Leaves and branches generally grow in a spiral pattern around the main stem. So let's look at Fibonacci numbers in pine cones. And this is one of my favorites. I just love pine cones. I used to have a huge collection of pine cones, but I returned them all to nature when I moved full-time on the road, full-time RVing, that is. So the number of spiral turns about the pine cone, both clockwise and counterclockwise, are most often Fibonacci numbers. So we can count the turns using the starting points of the black and white example. So is it a Fibonacci number? So we have 1. All right, so how many turns did you count? If you counted 8, that is correct. All right, and then here you can see the spiral turns exhibited here as well. Here we have a female Pinus coulteri cone, and I drew a line over one of the spiral turns. So pretty exciting. So for a possible little hands-on activity, you can go outside and study pine cones if you have any in your backyard or somewhere in your local neighborhood. Just collect some and have fun counting spiral turns on a pine cone. It's a blast, really. You can paint them. I used to have my students like paint the spiral turns. That was a lot of fun. And students of all ages can appreciate doing that. Pineapple Fibonacci exhibit. So pineapples show left and right-handed spirals, usually revealing Fibonacci numbers. The ratio of the high slope versus the low slope helix approximates also the golden ratio. So again, we did this earlier, 3 divided by 2, 5 divided by 3. Those get closer and closer to phi, or 1.618. All right, so spirals going in, or spiral turns going in this direction have 8 turns, and spirals going in this direction have 13 turns, both Fibonacci numbers. All right, what Fibonacci number do you notice with these apple horizontal cross sections? We talked about this earlier. So 5 for the 5-pointed star that you can find inside of the apple cross section. Okay, so let's have a look at Fibonacci sunflowers here. So the seeds are arranged in spirals. One spiral set turns to the left, another opposite spiral set turns to the right. Now here's where you can get much higher Fibonacci numbers because the seeds are tightly packed into a small space and the seeds are really tiny. So, 34 and 55, those are larger Fibonacci numbers. So counting the spiral turns in each direction, almost always two numbers. The two spiral turns end up being Fibonacci numbers. Okay, those are references I use. This is a copper beech tree. I'm sorry, this is a copper beech tree, close-up of the leaves, the succulent plant there. And thanks so much for watching. Here we have Vincent van Gogh's Three Sunflowers from 1888, and threw in some fun art here. And this is Arnica, Montana, the background image, and the thumbnail here in the sidebar. Really beautiful art. So we could actually count those petals to see if they're a Fibonacci number. I won't do that. I'll let you do that. Okay, so let me just turn on the webcam here. So thank you so much for participating in this lesson, and I will see you in lesson number 4.